Welcome back to another episode. This is Layla, and today we are discussing structured success and Saturnian limitations. And all the Saturn teachings, by the way, are the most important things in the spiritual community, and for some reason, people don't talk about this enough. So, if you're a woman who has a lot of dark feminine energy just naturally, right? You maybe had a past life as a witch, or just in general, like you just identify more with the darkness or the night, or you feel really connected to Lilith and Inanna. You probably have something like a quiet power. When you enter a room, people are probably afraid of you, even if they don't show it to you. So when we have a lot of dark feminine energy, we naturally create a lot of chaos, like feminine chaos, right? Which is not a bad thing. You know, society a lot of times doesn't know how to handle emotions and empathy, compassion, and chaos, which is the energy of Mother Nature. But here's the thing with Mother Nature. You cannot control her. It is impossible to control the dark feminine. But when you have too much of dark femininity within you, right? When you have too much of that Lilith energy, it might create too much chaos in your life. And this is something that I see all the time. This is something that I used to struggle to as well, a little bit. But this is something that I noticed, because here's the thing, I had to overcome it at some point because I was going, insane. And I also have a small child. So I had to, find a way to build a lot more structure and stability in my life. But yeah, this is something that's super common when you look at, tarot readers or psychics, especially on social media. They're very chaotic, but, in a beautiful way. But I notice usually a lot of the same patterns. So one of the pattern is to not sell your services at the correct price. So usually what happens is that because they're not seeing their self-worth, they're not seeing their worth, they usually sell their sacred services at very small fees, because in their mind they think, if I sell a product that's cheap, or in the lower ticket realm, it's going to be more accessible, right? Which creates a lot of chaos within their personal lives, because they usually don't make enough money to go by, to live. And so they might find themselves, moving a lot, or being financially codependent with someone else, which usually never ends well. So just in general, a lot of chaos. And so the solution to that is to work with the Saturn energy, which is technically the energy that they used to build society with, right? But here's the thing. We also need the balance of the Lilith energy, because when there's too much of that Saturnian energy, unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of men abuse of their power, and they become leeches of the Mother Earth, energy, the dark feminine. And so the dark feminine is really here to keep that balance, because if not, yeah, man would just take everything, right? So when we start to work with the Saturn energy, we're actually working with the root chakra. So it's a very grounding practice, super fun. Actually, you know what? It's not fun, because it's a lot of discipline and routine. And you know what? I feel like a lot of women who, this trend where women are like into spirituality, or they have like an OF account, they're all over the place making a lot of money. But then usually they have this like inner calling of having more structure. And unfortunately, they go towards, religion to fulfill that need. But that's what it is, even, for example, with Christianity, Christianity is all about the light. The light is the masculine energy. So usually it's just a need of structure and, just like more boundaries in your life, more self-worth. So it's that same need for that Saturnian energy. So when it comes to Saturn, we're going to discuss what Saturn loves to do and what are the themes, basically. Let me just grab a quick sip of water before I start. My huge Stanley cup is in the way. Okay. So the first thing is to have a structure and to learn self-discipline. So a lot of times when I hear women being in situationships, for example, that's usually because they have a lot of dark femininity inside of them. They have a lot of Lilith energy, sexual energy. They're really embodied in their pleasure, but they lack boundaries. So they're not honoring their heart. They're not honoring their heart's desires. They're not honoring their conscious creator powers, right? So these situations, these experiences are usually very painful emotionally because they're meant to trigger very deeply so that the women can step into this more structured energy, right? So when it comes to order, for example, so Saturn really values, structure, organization, and well-defined systems. So the first thing to do is to create a routine with consistent daily practices and habits, especially that are, healthy for sure. To have a goal, for example, and to make it into like these like smaller daily tasks. That's very Saturnian as well. So, that's why going to the gym, for example, is very healing to the root chakra, or just any type of exercise in general. Especially if we're consistent, because we're again working with the Saturnian energy. We're not avoiding or shaming the body, right? Which is what the spiritual community does a lot. Discipline, so self-control, perseverance, dedication. And of course, especially as a woman, we have to be mindful that we have a 28-day hormonal cycle compared to men, which is a 24-hour cycle. So we have to be mindful of that even if we're, for example, being consistent with a physical, like an exercise practice of any sort, we also have to listen to our body, because some week we might train a certain way, and then the other week, if we have our periods, then we're gonna train a very different way. We might even take a break actually while we're having our periods, and then, you know what I'm saying, like, you have to create your own feminine structure, but you do have to be consistent, and you cannot rely on motivation only. So that's why you need to have a plan. But of course, a feminine plan is going to be very different from a masculine plan. A masculine plan is going to be all about, doing the same thing every day, because they can do it. They have the levels of energy to do that. But as for women, for example, for my social media, that's actually a good example. I'm very consistent, right? So I have posts every single day that are going out, but I'm not in front of my computer or my phone every single day. I just schedule it. So scheduling your content in advance, for example, is a very feminine practice. Also men can use it as well, but it's even better for women because it ensures that you have a clear system, right? You enroll new clients every single day, 24/7, but you're not working hard just like a man would do, physically. because you're scheduling everything in advance. So you're actually working with your menstrual cycle, which is where the Lilith energy comes into balance within that formula. So anything that's related to, responsibility and duty is very Saturnian. Hard work, especially for men, but like I said, you have to be consistent in your own way as a woman, and you have to adapt to each week of your cycle, of course. But usually what I see when I hear about hard work for women, it's mostly about holding the vision and holding the frequency of what you want is a lot of hard work. It's not physical, right? You're not like pushing anyone or anything, but it requires hard work because some days we have distractions, life stuff happens. We drive and then someone does something stupid and almost causing an accident. So that's another distraction. But to really focus on getting back to yourself and getting back to your frequency is hard work. So this is how I see feminine hard work. Being accountable, actually, yeah, my French is kind of coming out sometimes with some words. So taking responsibility for your actions and obligations, of course, but also being accountable as well for the past mistakes, but don't dwell on them. It's like, okay, that was painful, that was not fun. Here were all the lessons that I learned from this relationship or situation or workplace, blah, blah, blah. And then you take all the lessons and then you start fresh, but you're actually starting from experience. You're starting from wisdom instead of just being naive and, like the maiden type of energy where you're just like discovering everything. It's like you're starting again fresh, but with knowledge and wisdom. Respecting rules, traditions, established hierarchies, and authority. So, I know this might be triggering because that used to trigger me a lot because I've seen so many power abuse in my life, especially from men that were in positions of power with the law, police officers. Like, I went through so many situations that made me lose respect for authority. But here's the thing. As long as you don't associate authority with like certain people and certain situations, you know what I'm saying? So like, for example, I understand that the meaning behind, having a justice system, for example, is to make sure that people are dealing with the consequences of their actions, right? And their karma. And I know, don't come for me. I know the justice system is so corrupted. And here's the problem. But the cool thing about the Lilith energy is that because she's here to establish some sort of balance, even people, listen, that's really important. Even people who get away with murder, right? They always end up having their karma outside of the justice system, right? Because the reality is that when you have money, power, status, and some aggressive lawyers, they know the loopholes, so they're able to get you out of any situations. It costs a lot of money, but you have it. So, see, that's why the justice system is not fair. When someone has done something and they're able to get out of it with their power, status, money, right? Their body becomes their prison. And I know you're probably thinking, no, this person was like still wealthy after that and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you don't know what they were struggling with. You're not in their mind. I'm a psychic. I'm telling you, some people that are able to avoid the justice system become crazy, like mentally insane. They have to like self-medicate themselves as soon as they wake up in the morning and all day, every day. They cannot live with their conscience. And there's nothing worse to be in prison in your own body. There's nothing worse. Think about it. you can escape it. Like you can run, but you can hide, or they go through all these crazy situations. Sometimes it literally takes them out of this realm. Like it really depends. And because it's the Saturn energy, it's the karmic energy, sometimes the karma is quick, but sometimes it might take a while. It really depends. But there's always karma served, always, all the time. Oh, that's weird. There's like a plane close from here, but there's never any plane. Anyway, so another theme of Saturn is time and patience. So if you're someone who has a lot of dark feminine energy, your life is a bit chaotic, or you're having issue with the RRS, that's another sign of, because you can be a multimillionaire too and having issue with the root chakra with Saturn. And it's going to cause you situations where the IRS is literally stalking you. I know it's not funny, but I'm just saying, like, it's horrible. So again, all these principles are really good if you have dark feminine energy, if you're like a multimillionaire who has a lot of like issues with the government, or you feel like you're being tracked or harassed. This is going to help you a lot. So focusing on long-term goals. This is something that people can only do if their nervous system is regulated. When your nervous system is not regulated, you're going to be thinking about short-term pleasure, short-term bills, short-term, satisfaction. And that's not because you're dumb or stupid. It's your nervous system. It's in survival mode. So it's just trying to survive the day-to-day life, which is why the majority of the people, like the masses, have a really hard time doing long-term planning or long-term goals, because they're focusing on surviving and just, they're thinking about their short-term goals, basically. So really focusing on making a plan, a long-term plan, all right? And of course, moving in silence and not sharing that plan is part of this energy as well, especially Lilith. Lilith is like, shut the F up. Like, don't even share the good things. Like, don't even tell people, oh, I want to get married one day. Like, do not tell people that. Like, even if they smile in your face and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm so excited for you. Like, you're going to be such a good mother, blah, blah, blah. People can curse you and literally delay. They can't stop it, but they can delay your blessings. So shut the F up when you're working on your long-term goals, because it belongs to you. Like, no one has to know, and don't trust anyone. Patience. So the appreciation of gradual progress and the virtue of waiting is so Saturnian. That's like Saturn energy. That's technically that used to be the goal of like the school system. The school system is very Saturnian, but of course it's so outdated now. But one of the main goals of the Saturnian system is to teach patience, because when you're doing a class or you're going to school, like, you don't have instant gratification. Like, sometimes it takes a year to graduate from that year, and there's a lot of like day-to-day routine. It's absolutely not adapted to women unless you're doing online school. Then you can create your own schedule, but like for your hormones, like just regular traditional school is actually good for men only. I know it's controversial to even say that, but that's the truth. It was created for men by men. Thankfully now we have the internet, so we can go to school online and we can create our own schedules. Of course, we do have the same deadlines as anybody, but at least you get to decide how you're going to create, and you can also, once again, use your menstrual cycle to create in a more optimal way, so you're not burning yourself out, you're not becoming like a man, you don't have a beard like facial hair coming out of you, right? Because you're still in your feminine energy. Another thing as well that Saturn loves is the aging with wisdom, I would say. So there's a lot of value that's placed on experience, maturity, and the lessons of time. So even in ancient times, the spiritual teachers were always older women. The crone energy, right? It's a more mature energy. It's like that tough love type of vibe as well. So that's what it is. Another thing that Saturn loves is realism. And I know I'm like, for me, it's like bittersweet because I get it now, obviously, because, I have a bit more experience in life. But that used to trigger me so much when people would be like, be more realistic, right? Especially if you have a lot of dark feminine energy, because you're the architect of the matrix. Like, you get to create your reality. So when someone tells you like it's not realistic, like the goals that you have, that is actually the main reason why you have to keep your goals quiet and you have to move in silence as much as possible until things are really permanent, So Saturn really prefers, this pragmatic approach to problems. And there's, it's more like a practical, rational way to deal with life, which is great because we know that if you only use your emotions to get through life, you're basically going to be owned by them. You're going to be a slave to your emotions and a slave to your life circumstances, and you're never going to be able to overcome them because you're going to be a slave instead of being a master, a conscious creator that takes life by the horns. You know what I'm saying? Like, so by being a realistic person, and of course you have to use your imagination to whatever, tap into your heart's desires as a dark feminine, and then you get to create your own reality as well by tapping into source and becoming source, right? But once you've done that process, you have to get back into the 3D. And if you're dealing with any sort of issues, you also need to be using your mind and be like, okay, what are the solutions right now that I have that I can do? Or, instead of focusing on what you don't have, you can make a list of all the things that you do have and the things that you did accomplish in your life, because it's so easy to get into that rabbit hole of like, things are never going my way. I don't have this, I don't have that, and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that, and then you're kind of like spiraling down into this like negative energy. And so the way to come out of it is to do the opposite, right? You write a list of all the things that you're grateful for, all the resources that you do have right now, and that's how you're able to get out of that funk, that cloudy type of energy. So practicality, of course, is something that Saturn loves. So solutions that are really functional and effective. So for example, to give you like a specific example, the Hathor Mystery School, the teachings are all about the dark feminine energy, right? Mary Magdalene, Lilith, Inanna. So it's very intense. All of these were channeled, by the way, through my dreams. But anyway, that's not the point. I needed to create a structure to hold these teachings, because these teachings were like coming in and out of me in my dreams. And I was like, what is happening to me? Like, what is that? And then I was able to see like the vision of it, and then the students and everything. And I was like, how am I going to, like, what is that? So my website, for example, is my structure. It's my Saturnian route where people go there. They read the landing page, for example, for a course, and they're like, okay, is this for me? Is this not for me? Then they can choose, obviously. So, but that's the whole like automatic process, right? I'm not like sitting there like welcoming people one by one. Like I'm probably sleeping somewhere, like walking like in the forest, But still, my teachings needed a structure. So that's one example. So to have these like really functional, effective systems, so then people just can, it's like they can go to like a candy store, but it's almost like there's like this automatic checkout. So you don't have to like be there. They take what they want, they pay, they leave, everyone's happy. It's a win-win situation. Another thing that Saturn loves is simplicity. So minimalism, austerity. So avoiding avoiding unnecessary excess. That's also very Saturnian. Let me drink again. Talking a lot today. So, yeah, whenever we see excess of luxury, like too much, and it used to be popular, right? Like not too long ago. But now, because the Lilith energy is really rising on the planet, people are so fed up of, and of course that those are the first one that are coming to mind, the Kardashians, for example, that used to show us so much excess of luxury. Like it was like too much sometimes, right? Not all the time, but sometimes you're like, do you actually need 20 cars? Like, do you actually need, 200 purses? and now people don't want to see that anymore. And they're actually offended. Like, people are like, you know what? Like, shut up. Like, that's the little energy. That's like, who the fuck do you think you are? So minimalism, simplicity. It can be luxurious, but as long as it's not like too much. Like, you can have like one luxury car or two, but like, do you really need more than that? Like, do you need like a different car for each day of the year? Like, what is that, but yeah, Saturn is like the daddy that's like, hey, just get one or two cars and that's it, we're done. We're using our money for, better things, more things that are more practical for the collective. Stability and security is also connected to Saturn. So security, for example, the importance of stability, safety, reliable foundations. So if you have an online business, to have a website that's like really solid, with all these like landing pages, systems that's like automatic. Okay. My course, by the way, Faceless Marketing, I would say is the most practical of all my courses, because a lot of them are like, about magic and, pleasure and emotions and feminine energy. But Faceless Marketing, I would say, it's not masculine. It's like, it's really the Saturnian energy. And I would say the other one would be the Aquarian's Finance Revolution. So these are the two, but especially Faceless Marketing, it's all about systems. So that's literally what it is. Anything that's connected to consistency, which is why in the spiritual community, you're going to see, especially with women, you're going to see a lot of lack of consistency when it comes to content creation, for example. And I'm not shaming anybody, because I used to have that issue as well, because like I said, because of our menstrual cycle, we cannot, like, society expect us to be like the same every single day and to put out all of this content every single day for the algorithm. But you cannot work and operate with this type of like masculine energy, because you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to create a lot of health issues, and you're going to literally stop at some point, because you're going to be like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done putting so much pressure on myself. But like I said, when you have systems and ways to work, you can work like 4 hours in a month. If you want to. And at some point it's going to be zero, because everything is on automatic pilot. But still, the consistent energy is still going to be there, because it's needed to create momentum. You cannot, and even just in general, even if like one of your goals is to have like a sugar daddy, and I know I talk a lot about that, if you're consistent in your frequency, like if you already embody that frequency of like, I have 5 sugar daddies, because you're being consistent with that vibration, it's going to happen in your life. Consistency is just, it's the basis of life. It's the root chakra. Like, you have to be consistent with your vision, what you want. Your actions need to be aligned with that, vision. So that's where consistency is so important. So being reliable in your actions and decisions as well. Boundaries, so clear limits and boundaries to create order and protection. So once again, whether you have a business, sugar daddies, whatever, you have to set the standards and boundaries at the beginning. Literally at the beginning. And then people can make their choice and be like, you're too expensive for me, I cannot deal with you. Or, you know what I'm saying? But it has to be at the beginning. So, for example, someone is like, hey, I want to be your sugar daddy. Yeah, okay. Well, here's the allowance that I'm used to. Even if it's true or not, you're setting the boundary. And then, of course, that person has two options. They can say yes or no, but like, you're not losing anything. You know what I'm saying? Which is why you also need a lot of options. And it's the same thing with online businesses. You can't just have one online business and then sit there and wait until people buy from you. You know what I'm saying? So you set the high ticket price or whatever price that you feel comfortable to work with. You feel like your work is worthy of that. And then once you set that price, people get to decide whether they want or not, to like purchase or not. But when you have many businesses, you're not relying on just one source of income. So who freaking cares about who's buying what? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't care because you still have money coming in. So it's the same principle. And when you have sugar daddies and online businesses, then you're a goddess. Okay, the other one, achievement and mastery. So success through effort. So achievement that comes from hard work and determination. Like I said, this is going to be very different for men and women. But for women, it's just that sustained effort or actions that are going to create this momentum, and then you're going to experience sustainable long-term success in anything that you want, whether it's with your online business or your personal love life, for example, or your family life. All right. Mastery is something that Saturn loves. So developing expertise in your field, right? So always getting updated and perfecting your craft and your art is something that's very Saturnian as well. And of course, recognition. So earned respect and acknowledgement for one's accomplishments is something that Saturn is going to gift you at the end of this this journey. But the cool thing is that it's not some temporary clout. It's going to be sustained recognition, long-term success. So it's actually a positive thing, It feels good. Tradition and legacy also are themes of Saturn. So anything that's related to, like I said, tradition. So respect for cultural, familial, and historical traditions. We do need the little energy to balance tradition, because in the past, and even now, but it's getting better a little bit, there has been a lot of abuse hidden with the disguise of tradition, basically. And we've seen that with religion. We've seen that everywhere. School systems, legal system, police officers who, we've heard all the stories. We've experienced them sometimes, unfortunately. But we do need to have this balance of tradition as well. And I know at first you want to rebel, that's what I did. I was like, fuck tradition, fuck everybody. I'm not doing anything traditionally, which I eventually learned that we do need balance. So I actually get to decide now as an adult, which tradition is actually, healthy and beneficial, because there are some traditions that are healthy and beneficial. especially when you have a family and you have young children. I'm also creating my own traditions as well. I'm starting this like new lineage too, so that's also another way to work with tradition instead of the traditional way of working with it. The traditional way would be to not ask any questions, to like not use your discernment, and to just recreate abuse and generational trauma without thinking about it, which is unfortunately what most people do. Legacy. So building a legacy, building something that's enduring, that will last beyond one's lifetime. Super Saturnian, right? So that's why to get educated with, what's a holdings account, a trust fund, and blah, 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 and the whole like legal structure of money is so important, especially for the dark feminine, because we're part of this like new lineage of dark feminines that are actually empowered. So we're the witches that they were not able to burn, right? But in order to keep those traditions and legacies and that are more anchored into Mother Earth and compassion and the heart space, we also have to create the financial structures as well for us and for the next generation after us, So again, by working with Saturn, this is going to help with that. And this is going to build this really strong foundation, because we're only at the beginning of the age of Aquarius. Like we're the new ancestors. And the traditions and the teachings that are going to survive, that are going to be given to the younger generations, younger women, the next spiritual leaders of the next generations, can only be preserved if we preserved our legacy. So ancestry also is very Saturnian, so connecting with and respecting as well one's roots and heritage as well. So you have a human lineage, but you also have a soul lineage as well. So you can, honor both if you're connected to both, which I am personally. But it's also interesting to see that we have two different types of lineage, because for example, my human lineage is connected to like human slavery, poverty, like war, all these like horrible, dense, energies. But my soul is actually connected to the Venusian lineage of Mary Magdalene. So that's actually very light, even if it is dark energy, mostly like dark feminine, I would say. The basis of it is actually love and light, but it's the hidden light. It's not the fake light that we see, it's the real light. So by looking into, your soul ancestors as well, you can liberate yourself from all these like human lower, generational curses, for example. All right, so that's it for today's episode. That was the longer one, but I feel like, all these Saturn teachings are so detrimental for our generation, and just in general, to have like this like really strong foundation to build this new age of Aquarius and the rise of the divine feminine. We do need the Saturnian energy to balance this Lilith energy that's coming here right now to destroy everything that is not for the highest good of the collective, that is not aligned with the heart center of Gaia. All the abuse of power is getting exposed, right? And like I said, a lot of people's bodies are now becoming their prison. So even if you're like, yeah, but that person was able to avoid jail, don't, please, like, just know I can promise you that people are going through their karma right now, and it's not fun, and it's torture. It's daily torture, and there's no amount of drugs, no amount of substances that can silence your consciousness. yeah, I had chills saying that. All right, so that's it for today's episode. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm going to continue this series of Saturn, and I'll see you tomorrow for our next episode.